I'm TD Erickson, and this is Top Tech Games, TD Talks. I'm joined by our co host, TD Bapo, to my left hand side right here. And to the south, we have Carlo G in the place to be, aka TD Slice Bread. So, again, shout out to everyone who's on a happy birthday right now. But I think currently we will do this a little bit differently, setting agenda, because as you see, Carlo G is not in the place to be. He's at Mango's Games right now.
That's right.
So we'll switch it up a little bit and we'll start first with Judge's Call.
Hello, everyone. This is Carlo G, resident level 1 judge. Going to present a small, quick interaction with two cards that we are very much familiar with. Should be episode 2, December 12th. So, if we have a Narset in play, we all know this Planeswalker Narset, Partner of Gales, one blue, legendary Planeswalker Narset. Each opponent can't draw more than one card each turn. Then an ability, look at top 4 cards of your library. You may reveal a non-feature card or non-land card from among them and put them into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in any random order. Also, we have the command Prismari command. It's a 1 is that instant. Choose 2. Prismari command deals 2 damage to any target. Target player draws 2 cards, then discards 2 cards. Target player creates a treasure token and destroy target artifact. In this scenario, our opponent controls Narset,
The Narset.
and we have the Prismari command. Now, what will happen if Narset is at 2 loyalty, and we use Prismari command with the 2 modes, 2 damage to Narset, and draw 2, discard 2. The question here, ladies and gentlemen, do you draw?
Okay.
Do
This
you
is
guys?
quite
Yep,
tricky. Quite tricky.
yep. Will you
So
draw?
everyone on chat, do you draw cards here? Sabi ni Anton, yes.
Yes.
I'm not sure if that's he's
Yeah.
I
saying
want
yes
Well,
to
He's
yep.
saying yes.
I'll
to
wait for
this.
everyone to send in their answers before I give the answer.
I want to
So
say
yeah,
no. I want to say no
you want to say
because
no? Okay,
Mm,
okay,
because he said yes.
okay.
Just for
Sure.
the kicks.
okay,
Yep.
okay.
For the cake.
For
I
me,
want
You.
siguro,
Yep. Yep.
I'm thinking of no. Then maybe,
Noted.
I'm gonna go with no, because although there was this specific instance that I think is not the same as this, um, I feel that it's also applicable. It's the Doughty Voidwalker incident
Mm.
where there's 2 Doughty
Mm.
Voidwalkers. If they die, do they exile each other? So
Yeah.
with that
Interesting.
scenario,
We can go back to that as well. All right. So
mm,
we have some people saying yes, some people saying no. Okay. Let me talk to you about the cleaners of the Magic game here called SPA or State Based Action. It is the game's version of a cleanup crew. After every action, spell, triggered, or activated ability resolves, the SBA cleans up the game state and checks most aspects of the game, like cards in hand, lethal damage, or lives of the player. In this situation, if we go look back at this scenario, when we shoot the Narset with 2 damage, it doesn't die right away. It doesn't die yet. We have to wait
mm,
for state-based actions to look at the number of loyalty counters on Narset, and then it dies. So, in this scenario, we'll go back to the scenario that Erickson said. What happens when you have 2 Doughty Void Walkers? Now, when those Doughty Void Walkers hit themselves, because they have shadow and they can block each other. What happens is they both deal 3 damage to each other, and then they have lethal damage on them. After the damage step of combat is done, we go at looking at the state-based action. So since both have the lethal damage to each other, we will look at state-based action. State-based actions check if they will die or not. So they die, but since they're still there when they die. Their abilities will look at each other, will see each other, so they will still be exiled. Okay, back to our situation here, our scenario here. We deal 2 damage to Narset, but she doesn't die right away. We look at Safety's action. Since she's still there while Prismari Command is still trying to resolve, Prismari Command will still see Narset. So you will not be able to draw. What happens here is you will not draw your 2 cards, then you discard 2 cards.
Ah,
And
I was right.
Narset.
Yay! I was right
Yep.
as well. So because from my understanding, the reason why I chose no, aside the fact that Anton said yes, is because of the state-based action mechanic in the game. So my understanding of that mechanic is the state-based action checks itself after the card fully resolves. So when you're choosing, which is why I was also a bit doubtful when I said no, but I was going with my gut feeling when state-based action was going to, play a huge role in this scenario. Uh, you can you basically have to let all the modes resolve before the state-based action checks itself. So in that case, Narset shouldn't be dead yet because
Yep.
the resolution of both modes hasn't been done. So by dealing 2
Yep.
damage and then at the same time, target player draws 2 cards and discards 2 cards, Narset is still on the field. So hence, we can't draw the cards. Instead, we are forced to discard 2 cards. So I think that's
Yep.
the result that we were trying to picture.
Yep. Yeah, Gerson is absolutely correct. The Prismari Command still sees the Narset in the field. That is why you cannot draw. So, yep.
I see. I see.
Another example of this as well is, let's say you have, just added to another thing. As the thing that we just have to remember is, before we continue playing the game after a effect has resolved or damage has resolved, we still have to check for state-based actions to clean up the game state before we can continue. So, yep, that is it for our judge call moment
Judge call.
for today.
Nicely done, Carl. Very good. What do you call this? Case study here. But I think we should give Anton half a point as well, because he says, clarify yung question, do you draw a card? It
No.
says he
Oh,
would draw 1
No, wait,
if
no,
it's the
no,
opponent's turn.
was it? Was that
No,
the
no,
question?
I said-
I didn't read it correctly.
no. I said that the opponent owns the Narset, and it's our turn, and we cast this Prismari Command.
Balik ang slide.
Ah,
Ibalik ang
okay,
slide. Ibalik ang slide.
Ibalik.
It
I
doesn't
wanna
say.
see
It doesn't say.
It doesn't
Does he say? Okay,
Oh.
okay, okay.
Doesn't say. Doesn't say.
Oh,
Doesn't say.
Okay.
oh, we
I have to
assumed
add
it's
that,
our
but yeah.
turn. So,
Yeah. When I say it was the
No,
opponent
you're
owns
done.
the Narset, and it's our turn, and we casted this Prismari Command. Alright, not today. Anyway,
It was good. That was a very good exercise. It was
Gotcha.
good exercise.
he didn't catch me. He didn't catch. No, Anton. No.
Which one you want to go
Do you want to
first?
do first yours or mine? I think I can
Yeah,
do mine
I-
first, and then we can talk about yours. Or
Sige. Let's do it.
sige,
Let's do
sige.
yours.
Which one?
Do
Do mine first.
Yeah.
Finance. Let's do finance. All right. All right.
Wow.
Right. Welcome everyone. So this is wow. So this is MTG Finance. This is TD Finance basically, and you always know our motto: which was mentioned by Anton Garochi. Shout out to you, buddy. He says, buy high and never sell. That's actually the name of the game right now. So as we're gonna look at a couple of metas right here, and just we're gonna look at the weekly movers muna. So for now, let's look at modern and how the actual banning list affected the market. So if you look at it from a weekly perspective, this is from a week ago. The the thing that I would be pointing out is that there is a certain rebalance that happened from last week. So as you can see, one of the cards that we saw that went up last week was Mero Commerce, and now it's down about 28%. There is a slight issue, I think, here on why it went up at that segment. I think there was a couple of speculations about how good the card is in terms of like the EDH component. I think there might also be a major buyout that happened at that point in time. Not yet confirmed, but most of the time, some of these fluctuations are actually affected by that. So most of the most efficient way to look at the market actually is to look at your local game shop's price, especially if you haven't visited Top Deck Games, topdeckph.com, because we use a not just one platform to determine the price, but it's actually an aggregate pricing platform. So if you're just basing it off out of TCG, there might be a buyout that happened at that. And this is not to slight TCG, right? This is just any platforms out there. It's affected by buy and sell. So if there's a major buyout, everything would be out of stock, and then there would be speculatory prices that would creep up. I'm not saying that this is what happened with Mero Commerce. This is what the potential that happened with Mero Commerce, but because of the actual 28% is a huge swing down from last time. So I think that's where we wanted to say. Mind Break Trap, I believe, is just normalizing its price set. It's down 9% from the last time that it had. It actually breached $85 last time, and now it's at 78. I think if it's going to be reprinted, it would definitely significantly reduce. I think its actual price set should be only about roughly around 1340. Don't quote me on this. If you're waiting for it to come down and then it's not yet reprinted for the next how many what do you call this years, please don't take this as a financial advice as well.
Hmm.
Other than that, the other thing that we want to check out is the glycerin oil. It's down 21%, but to be honest, it's actually a mixture. So if you look at the price, you need to look at the actual amount of movement that happened. So there's just $2 that went down. That's 21%. Not so much of a movement for glycerin oil. But I think it's not really so much played in modern as well, as a modern player myself. That being said, everything else is, I think, kind of okay from a movement perspective. 3%, 4%. If you want to check out Ragavan Nimble Pilfer, it's still at around $40. I think its resting price would be around $40, $50, 40, 45. Now let's look at the top winners. So for the top winners, I'm not surprised about this. Arcbound Ravager actually went up 20% because of the current meta not having, what do you call this? Not having Fury, and now you would see an uptick of playable cards that are creature related. You also have the Grief. Now Grief, this is 11%, but I think it's just normalizing. Remember last week there were speculations that Grief will be banned, so this is just going to be normalizing the price. So it's around 30, 35 give or take. So if you want to trade, I have a couple of Griefs as well. You can buy it at Top Deck page. Or TD sales. Visit TD sales. The other thing that I could see that is moving up is the One Ring. It took a back seat from the beans. So if you notice, one of the prevalent cards there are bean decks, and it's either scam decks or bean decks. And the people that you actually use the One Ring are what are the meta decks, which is Tron and I believe Titan. Fell into the backseat because it cannot match up to those types of value that the bean can do. But because it's now fallen off the wayside, I would probably say now it's coming up into the prices again. This is just I feel like this is just normalizing. I might be wrong, but I feel like the One Ring would be around $60 to $70, give or take, depending on the actual value. So you might notice, like, EU, how come there's two Arcbound Ravager? One is 20% and one is 7%. So I believe this is the original Arcbound Ravager right here. and then the other one is, I believe, the newer version of the Arcbound Ravager. That's why I said I think this is wrong. I feel that I do believe that it should be around $20, but I don't think this should be more expensive than it's first print, yo. First print will always be first print. So take your first print if you want. Yeah. Thoughts on the movement for modern metagame, TD Baps?
Um, I would say it's a bit unexpected, at least on the side of Grief, because we'll actually talk about it's part of the top decks of the week, which I'll cover later. But um, for those who are not aware, Grief was used in what do you call this? The LMS Barcelona for modern 700 plus players, and lo and behold, Rakdos Scam actually won the tournament without
Scam is
Fury.
the scam.
Because like the way the meta shifted, everyone just started playing like what the next best deck is or supposedly was, which was the Cascade decks, both
Mm.
Rhinos and Living End. And then some of the players would still like they just started playing Yawgmoth and Hardened Scales, and yeah, Grief was in a the deck was in a very good position to take the whole tournament because it if I remember correctly, the tournament report for the deck was it ran through 5 living ends and the deck went undefeated on all of them. So hence the spike on the Grief because everyone would thought that the deck just wouldn't function anymore. Nope, it still has you know the essence of a scam deck where you just cheat in Grief, take out 2 of your opponent's cards, maybe 3 with a Thoughtseize, and then just kill him from there slowly with mid-range cards. I mean, Dothy Voidwalker is just a very good card right now in the meta. Like everyone's just abusing graveyard decks, combo decks, especially with Yawgmoth and Hardened Scales, and with Living End back in the fold. I think Living End is going to take another backseat, at least for a while, as long as Rakdos Scam is on the field, or at least Voidwalker is mostly prevalent in most of the black decks. So that's the biggest surprise. Otherwise, everything else is very normal to me with the Arcbound Ravagers, the One Ring, but One Ring might stabilize depending on how the meta shifts once again. We're just waiting for the next big event to happen. Maybe after the holidays.
Let's see on the next. Usually the movers and now I think the power creep actually speaks a lot. So you were talking about unbanning a while ago on Pioneer, right? And then it speaks a lot to power of how the power creep actually exponentially rose from the time we had the Looter Scooter, because they had the cojones to unban them in Pioneer, which they did ban initially. That means that they are somewhat confident that the cards they printed before and now could answer actually this card. And I think it's also might be okay. There might be a tendency to overcorrect because they could see that there's a lot of creep of combo decks out there, and they wanted to give more power to sort of a aggro meta a little bit, so to balance things out. But let's see how it concludes. So if you look at the weekly change right here, let's look at the losers, the major losers, and the winners. We have growing rights of Itlamok. I don't think this price is dictated because of what do you call this? Dictated by the price of the unbanning. This is basically EDH creeping up. We have Tyrant, Trapjaw Tyrant, which is down 14%. Haven't seen this as well in the main stuff, but this card, the Ozilith, I'm a bit surprised that it's going down in price. It might be because it's competing in its actual slot, some slots that are cutting Oziliths as well, especially for when they're playing modular decks, because there's the Cauldron. Cauldron is so much better than that. Other than this, I think, well, Mana Confluence as well here. I think this is just a sort of rebalance. It's just a $1 difference, to be honest. So it's going to be around $30 for sure. Let's look at the up items. So we made mention a while ago that Smuggler's Copter, I believe, is more than $10. I think, is it at around $14, $15 right now? give or take. So this 41% has increased, even larger from last week. So this is unsurprising. The other thing that we wanted to talk about is the return to ranks, which increased 231%. Now,
Mhm.
I haven't seen any decks out there in Pioneer that's coming back. I do really hope that the Aristocrats deck actually sees more play. I really do hope that that's the case. I'm not sure if this is just a fluke. Now, you might say, "Yo, E 231 is not is sounds a lot," but if you look at the actual price change, it's just because it was a dollar plus prior, so that's why you have a 231 increase in price at that point in time. 10% for Bergie. I'm not quite surprised there, but to be honest, maybe a little bit, but it's just a dollar if you look at it, so not much to discuss here. The three ohms I think have already been stable. Thoughts, TD Baps?
Yeah, I'm just looking at the list of the cards that are moving right now upward.
Mm.
Most of them are just basically EDH components, so it's not really much to talk about in the sense of the Pioneer meta, except for
Mm.
Smuggler's Copters, which every deck is running right now, unless you're control. Mid range, aggro, uh, sometimes. I mean, you could if you could consider Cat Oven as a combo deck, then that would be the combo deck that actually runs Smuggler's Copters right now. So yeah, it's definitely expected for Smuggler's Copter to make waves again because just how resilient the card is, especially when
Mm.
you're not prepared in dealing with that card alone. Like, there's a reason why it got banned in Standard and Pioneer at the same time. So unbanning it, although I am a bit excited on how people are going to break the meta with that one card. So, or maybe someone would figure out how to like just play around the card where they don't have to play their own copters, their own copies, and then just try to make a huge swing in the meta. I want to see that type of thing happen, especially in like the Japanese tech where they just brew random stuff. Like I'm seeing some people playing Subterranean Schooner instead of Smuggler's Copter just because it has the force toughness. You can't.
Yes, 3-4. Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
3-4 is the body. So I would actually prefer that. The only downside is it's blue, so you have to play. You're forced to play a color that is slightly bad in the current meta. Because if you want to play Pioneer right now, look at the Rakdos colors, white, those types of decks, like really fast in the game because they really punish you, especially if you're going in the blind. So, and Smuggler's Copter is just perfect for any of these colors because the card is colorless. You can just play it. Like,
Yeah, it kind of has the One Ring vibe as well. That technically in
uh-huh.
theory you can put it in any decks that it can run, or that that can go to or can support the card per se. Yeah, that's it for my segment, and I think we are down to our last segment, which
Yeah,
is deck
my
top
turn.
deck of the week. You ready?
Yeah. All right. So it's my turn. Gonna be talking about the top decks of the week. This time I brought in Vanguard and One Piece as well. Shoutouts to Anton Garochi for helping me out once again. A bit of a clutch this time because it's going to be another busy month. We're like 2 weeks away from having the end of the year, so hence we're clutching things out. First off with Magic the Gathering. We got the modern LMS Barcelona event, which happened last weekend. There were 700 plus players. It was such a treat to see it live. It had event coverage, and we got to see a very interesting but not unfamiliar deck that rose up to the ranks. And there you have it in the screen, folks. Rakdos scam. It's not dead after all, because after the bannings of Fury, everyone thought that the deck was just like gone. They were wrong. the game plan of scamming Grief, taking out 2 3 cards of your opponent's deck or hand is still very powerful, believe it or not. And few changes in the deck would be the return of Seasoned Pyromancer, uh, as well as Fatal Push. Fatal Push is back in the deck because now some of the creature decks are coming back. So a little addition of like efficient removal is a must. And 4 copies of Dothy Voidwalker. It used to be like 2 3 copies. Now it's back to 4, and it like a very efficient meta call for this player right here who got the win. And yo, what up, Doc Pao? Yep, it's very familiar. The deck is very familiar. Shout out to Doc Paolo. He piloted this deck at the GG Nationals, got into top 8, getting 3rd place. Congratulations. Just before the bans. So got the money in the bag. And now uh, Mariluz Garcia happened to prove that the deck is not dead. Like, it still has feet. It's still a very powerful deck, and we gotta respect it. It's still there. Although it's not as powerful as it was before, where if you were a creature deck, like this was very hard to go up against because it has access to Fury, which can clear the board anytime, and that threat of a turn 1 Fury scam into a 3 turn clock is very, menacing back in the days. And back in the days, I mean like a couple of weeks ago. So now it's going for the mid-range tactics. You have cards such as Fable of the Mirror Breaker. You have Sholdred, as well as Ragavan to snowball the early game. Thoughtseize, Fatal Push, Lightning Bolt, and Terminate. Even though it's been shaved down, Terminate. The only reason you have multiple copies of Terminate back then was the mirror match. You just have clean answers to your opponent's Furies and Griefs, even Sholdred, if the game goes long. And Blood Moon, yeah, it just punishes. Because after the Up in the Beanstalk bannings, people are still exploring the 5-color decks, 4-color decks, with the One Ring, going back to the One Ring build. And yeah, they're still struggling to find their foot in the current metagame. But the clear winners so far are Hardened Scales, Yawgmoth, Rhinos, and Living End. Although Living End, I feel like after this, everyone's gonna take a step back and see and reevaluate how the deck is going to perform in the next couple of months. But it's not as bad as it was when Fury was still on the field, because I remember Living End had to adjust and play Fury on the main board, 4 copies before the bannings. So she did a split, Terminate, and Molten Collapse. Yeah, Molten Collapse just deals with some pesky permanents like Stone of Erech. A lot of people would even play that on the sideboard, sometimes on the main board, which is my favorite. But yeah, Rakdos Scam is still, it's not the deck to beat, but it's definitely still there. Like, it is a very solid deck to play. So if you sold your Furies, good. But if you sold the entire deck, then you might have to rethink your decision. After
Always
this,
remember MPG Finance, guys. What did we tell you?
buy high, never sell.
Never sell.
I
Never
pray-
sell.
Never sell your coins. Oh, yeah, yeah, I watched her play it through the top 8. It was like super dominant. Like, she just played through the deck, scam on turn 1 or turn 2, Thoughtseize after turn 1, and then like Dothy Voidwalker turn 2, turn 3. Like, it was just a very clean win for her, like all throughout the series. So shout outs to her. Like, very well deserved win for her throughout the weekend. And shout outs to the Living End player who got it to the finals only to end up losing to this deck. But Living End is still a solid choice. You just have to be prepared for these types of decks. I'm pretty sure a lot of Living End decks got caught off guard with the return, or rather the not dead, not death of Rakdos Scam. So that is my top deck of the week for Magic. Moving on to the next one. Let's see if I can click this. All right, so Hexa Orb, as chosen by Anton G. Let's see, what we have here. If I were to describe this deck in Magic sense, it's more of like a cannonball type, not glass cannon, but like it revs up and then waits to punch really hard in the next couple of turns. But in the first few turns, it's
Ramp.
kind of, yeah, it's ramp. Yeah, that's the best way I could describe the deck. So
Okay, I'm on board.
yeah, it's a ramp deck. So
It's a ramp
Hexa
deck.
Orb,
Okay, got it.
it's the playstyle is to allow the players to fix the top card of the deck, allowing him to secure triggers during the Vanguard's drive check. Because in Vanguard, it's very important to get your deck filtered and make sure that you just leave your triggers left on the deck. So better chances of getting that critical attack and just doing tons of damage. So every time you check a trigger, you can restand or untap your rear guard or your side characters, allowing you to attack with it again. So it has a potential of attacking 4 or 5 times per turn. Very common theme in Vanguard. It is a turn 4 deck, which means it's super weak in the early game. It's trying to set up it, just like what I said earlier. It's kind of like a ramp deck. It's trying to make sure it positions itself to win at turn 4. Past turn 4, it gets very explosive by piling pressure with the deck fixing and multiple attacks. So it gets very awkward to block after this. And the reason why this was picked, because it got second place finish in the Bushiroad Championship Series Vancouver, with the top 4 finish in Bushiroad Championship Series Duluth, which is in Georgia, USA, and multiple top 8 finishes. So this looks really good. Honestly, I like this. I think this is your deck if you were to play Vanguard, pre. Diba?
Anton Grouchy is saying it's miracle type, so yeah. I feel like it too.
Yeah.
Miracles.
I think Miracles is like a good way to compare this type of deck. Like just if you have access to effects that would, fix the top of your deck, because you really want that Miracle effect, like very cheap but powerful effect, and then just swing the game around. So I think that's the better term. So I guess it would have a lot of effects like what do you call that? What's that artifact in Magic? The dividing top. Sensei's dividing top.
Yep, Sensei's dividing top.
Or you just manipulate the top of your deck and then you just put it and just get that miracle effect. So very nice choice. I think I like this. Question, Ton, would you recommend this to a new player going into Vanguard? This is standard, right? If I'm not mistaken, this is standard format. Let me know in the comments, because it kind of feels complicated. the way you explain this deck. So what do you think, Bre?
I feel like anything that requires a setup requires a lot of skills. So I think it also boils down to knowing the meta, if ever. If you were going to ask me if well, we got an answer from Anton here. Super cheap deck and always good.
Oh, it's cheap.
Okay.
Nice. I always love cheap decks.
How cheap are
Big time.
we? How cheap are we talking about here?
Wait, is it the bling version or the normal version? If it's the bling version and it's cheap, I'm in. Bye. There you go.
Bye.
My man Doc. He knows because he's played Vanguard before. So shout out to Doc Pao. Any game you put him in, any card game, he'll always be on the top. No doubt.
Nice.
All right. So yeah, I like it. Exo Orb. I guess it's a big recommendation for Anton. So thumbs up for me. So moving on,
All right.
we're going to our favorite anime card game, One Piece.
Yes.
So the name
Why
of
is
the
there a
deck,
green card there?
yeah. So the name of
Ah,
the deck is Yellow Green Yamato. So there's not a lot of green cards in the deck except for Izo and Hody Jones. And the biggest theme for this deck is super aggressive. Like, because the effect of Yamato is if opponent has 3 or less life in his life zone, then you can attach up to 2 dons to any of your characters. So
Mhm.
it's like a free ramp, or like free damage, free to 2,000 damage. So when you're
Oh.
done, when you're done using it, you tap your Dawn, you cast your character, you play it, and then your opponent's at 3 or life below. You can use the use Dawn or the tap Dawn to attach it to the character and swing for more damage. So, and the effect of Yamato is double strike. So in One Piece card game, double strike means when you basically hit your opponent twice. So when he
Mm.
takes damage from the character with double strike, he will take 2 instead. So he can actually
Okay.
lose 2 life. Except when he goes to 0, he doesn't take lethal damage, even at 1. So it just goes to 0.
Mm.
Then he has
Okay.
to attack for the lethal. Otherwise, he'll always take 2 damage from that character. So having a leader that guarantees you a double strike every turn is very dangerous. Because um, especially if you're used to aggressive decks like Zoro, uh, what else? Law, I guess Law could be somewhat aggressive, but in terms of like board presence, or even Uta, which we explained or discussed a couple of weeks ago, Yamato is very deadly because an aggressive deck with uh, that has components of yellow means they get to manipulate. It's the same theme with Hexa Orb, the one we discussed earlier, which means like manipulating the top of your deck or like the life total. So you're manipulating triggers in your deck. So it's actually very interesting. Super aggressive style due to the leader having inherent double attack, which I mentioned earlier. It has multiple builds. It borrows strong cards from both colors, mostly yellow, because yellow is the prevalent color right now for the meta. It has the knowledge check component for the opponent to know when to block and when to take damage, just because of the double strike. So you got to be careful in throwing your what do you call this? Your guards. So then having access to yellow means they have strong triggers and life gain. That's always been the biggest upside for playing yellow, because sometimes it messes up your math when you're trying to deal lethal, and then your opponent just randomly gains life. So instead of like attacking him, when he or she is at 1 life, and then he takes it, and then the trigger happens, gaining 1 life again. So you're like 2 steps back from actually gaining that lethal. So it actually messes you up, and it might just cost you the game. So that's where the knowledge check happens, whether you want to block or take the damage. And then having access to green means giving them cards to tap down opponents' blockers, allowing the leader to attack freely. So just like Izo here, and what do you call this? Hody Jones, you can basically tap your opponent's characters. So because blockers are very important in the game, aside from having guards in your hand. So when your blockers get tapped, you're in a lot of trouble. Well, especially when Yamato is primed for a guaranteed double strike. So yeah, I think this is very scary. It also had some pretty decent results. It had 2 championship series top 8 in Tokyo and Miyagi prefecture. So this is a very legit deck. I'm also not surprised if this deck is very cheap, because yellow cards have been around ever since set 3 or 4, if I'm not mistaken, and they've been pumping a lot of yellow cards ever since. So it's very accessible. That's what I like about One Piece card game. The cards are not that expensive, unless you want to bling. That's where, I mean, if you saw the group chat for quite some time, they've been bragging about how the market has shifted up for the collectors in One Piece. All the alternate arts have gone up. The promo cards, the flagship promos have gone up because I just learned that December is the last flagship season for the Kaido and Big Mom promos, which means after that
okay.
we're gonna have new promos for January. So stonks, baby.
Last
if
time.
if you're playing
Last
One
time.
Piece, you gotta get that bag this weekend, or rather this end of the month on December 30. Flagship battle here in Top Deck Games. Don't forget, the boys in Davao, by the way, shout outs to them, are coming back once again. So be sure to get ready for the next battle. I think this would be a good choice for going into the flagship battles as well, even in your weeklies. So, Ton, how budget would this deck be if you were to give us a number? Because I have a feeling it's very budget. But overall, what do you think about the deck, Pre? Like, you like it? Like, does it fit on your play style? Would you recommend it to your friends?
I'll probably recommend it to my friends for sure.
Mm.
People that is on the aggro meta mindset. Definitely there. Yellow. I also bought yellow decks, but from what I was told, it was supposed to play like a cleric deck, but haven't played yet so much. So
They only played your deck once, so that counts. All right,
that's
so
something, I guess.
we got a number here. Actually, that's very impressive for a competitive deck. That's 3,000, 4,000. Not bad.
Not bad. Not bad. Is it bling out or just the basics?
I'm
Probably the
assuming it's
basics
the
one, right?
basics. Yeah.
Mm-mm-mm.
If it
I
would be
got you, I
blinged
got you,
out,
got you.
probably reach out to 10 to 15, which is still pretty budget
Ooh.
if you ask me, because you and I both know how expensive Magic is. So this is actually pretty budget if you ask me. So
For sure, for sure.
you guys have it good. But yeah, shout out to Anton. Thank you so much for sharing these top decks of the week. I actually like Yamato because I was wondering why Chris would sometimes play this deck, or was it the yellow Yamato? I think it has like a similar effect. I'm not sure, but this might be from the latest. Let me see if I can get a clear view. It's from the latest set, OPO6. So I can see why it's making waves right now. Because the way One Piece is, or Bandai is releasing sets, is they're creating like new meta. So it's like their version of standard, where there's always going to be new leaders, new decks to play. So it gets really exciting. Rather than, a couple of sets ago where we just saw Whitebeard and just Whitebeard. Everyone hated that.
White
that
beard
meta.
everywhere.
Yeah. And then, by the way, he's still very prevalent in the meta right now. Not as much as before, but like if you're not careful with, or like don't know how the deck works, then you could actually get demolished by the deck itself. It's still pretty
Oh
good,
my
even
God.
without the Moby Dick. Moby Dick is such a good card.
Oh my God. That was
Yes.
quite good.
All right, so that is it for me. My segment is done for the top
Nicely
decks
done.
of the
Nicely
week.
done. Nicely done. Very insightful, for sure. For sure. Thank you, TD Bapo. Yep, this is TD Talks, episode 7. We titled it Helicopter today. I'm TD Erickson. I'm saying goodbye, and I'm followed. I'm joined by TD Baps.
TD
At that
Bapo,
side.
it's your boy.
Shaboy. All right, that's it for us today. Stay safe.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye.